vandalism that's taken place. These are Khalistanis who have again pushing this entire Bhindranwale narrative. His name's been put. There are posters which have surfaced around in Melbourne and other parts of Australia. Again, there is also the political innuendo and the separatist innuendo, which is very clearly written outside the temple. Now, so again, abusing Hindus and abusing the political leadership of Bharat and pushing a secessionist narrative. We'll try and go across to all our guests one by one. I think I have Dr. Sachin Dahiya, who's executive member of the Ballarat Hindu Temple and Culture Centre, joining us. He is a Melbourne resident. We'll also try and connect with Jitarth Rai Bharadwaj, editor of the Australia Today, who broke this story first in Australia. Makarand Bhagwat, president of the Hindu Council of Australia, should join us. Sarah Gates, Dharmic Ecology and Hindu human rights activist, should join us. And Kuldeep Singh Shekhawat, director of MATV, should join us from London, because this is an increasing trend. Dr. Sachin Dahiya, namaste and thank you for joining us. Take us through what's happened, and is this a growing trend? This pushing of this secessionist narrative and these park-back miscreants, these Khalistanis there?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Anand. I think this is a racial and religious vilification which has started. And a few days ago, the BAPS temple was put with like anti-India and anti-Hindu messages, and it is increasing in recent times. In last few years, we are seeing across the world. I think there is a reluctance to acknowledge regarding the Hindu phobia, which is causing this, and the Western governments are not taking any actions. The population here, Hindu community, which is very angry, very scared right now, what is exactly happening. And this is absolutely display of religious hatred towards the peaceful community, Hindu community out here.
I have Jitarth Bharadwaj of Australia Today also. Jitarth, you had brought this story out first. Take us through the incident itself. When did it happen? How was it brought to light? Your audio is on mute. Can you please unmute yourself?
I can tell you early morning of 12th of January, probably these elements, Khalistani elements, they reached out to the temple and did the graffiti, did that vandal attack on them. And that's where they are so blatant that they recorded the whole incident in a video, and then they forwarded it to me. It was morning time, 7ish, when I started getting like a number of messages via my Twitter feed. And my phone was like berserk. It kept on coming. So there is a whole army of, I suppose, because of the names, Pakistan support ISI goons who masquerade as Khalistan supporters. I had almost 100 messages from there, which has this video and calling, do whatever you want to do. I mean, it was kind of apparent that they have done something. When I didn't bother to pick my phone, my kids didn't let me pick the phone at that point in time at 7 o'clock. And after we finished our breakfast, 7:45, I picked my phone and looked at it, and I was so worried. Oh my God, did they do much more than what they have shown it in that video to me? And immediately I called a few of my sources who are closer to this BAPS temple. It's in northern suburb of Mill Park in Melbourne, a place some 50-60 kilometers from where I live. Right. So I called them and asked them to reach out to the temple, whether what has happened there.
Right.
In the meantime, I called the temple, BAPS temple committee members. Most of them didn't pick the phone. The reason for that was because they were in India at this point in time. A big program is happening in Ahmedabad at BAPS. So then I kept on trying. There are a number of contacts from BAPS. One of the contacts picked the phone and I asked him, has something happened at temple? And he said, no, everything is all right. I was there last evening for the prayers. Ask him, can you check with the priest, whosoever is there, if everything is all right? Because I have some information that few people have done graffiti at your temple. And that was the person who, again, everything came into motion. He called the priest and he said, yes, something has happened. I'm reaching to the temple. And then it was apparent by whatever was happening, whatever was written on this, that
let me ask you this, Jitarth. I have Makarand Bhagwat of President of the Hindu Council of Australia is also with us. I have Sarah Gates ji also joining us, and Kuldeep Singh Shekhawat is also with us. Namaste. Thank you very much. Jitarth, let me just ask you this. What was the provocation? Why did they target this temple, and what is the reason that they had to do this act?
See, I'll give you two notes for this. Khalistani gang, which has imported from UK and USA and Canada, is here in Australia. Sikh for Justice gang is here in Australia right now. And they did a rally, car rally kind of a thing to propagate Khalistan referendum is happening on XYZ date at XYZ place in Melbourne. Now, from that point in time, 3-4 weeks ago, this happened. They are not getting any traction anywhere. So this is a desperate attempt to come forward into the news. And I also didn't understand why they want to come into news at this juncture. And this evening, I was delivered an email, and I would break this news right here at TV18 that Mr. Pannu is here in Melbourne, and he is doing a big press conference in Melbourne on Wednesday to propagate his idea of Khalistan referendum. So now if I connect those dots that they want to bring themselves into news by good, bad, ugly, they don't care. So they are in news, and now they will be doing.
So you are saying Gurbatman Panum, the wanted terrorist, the person who is designated terrorist by Bharat, by India, is currently on Australian soil in Melbourne, and he is going to looking to organize a press conference next Wednesday. Then Makarand Bhagwat ji, India and Australia now have signed an economic cooperation treaty. They have an agreement. They are part of a security arrangement called Quad. Then there are also parliamentarians of the current government, the Prime Minister himself, who has acknowledged the contribution of the BAPS Swaminarayan community. So then, Makarand Bhagwat ji, this man should be apprehended and deported to India. He is a wanted terrorist on Australian soil.
I'm not seeing anybody else on my screen, so I don't know who I'm talking to.
This is Anand Narasimhan here, Makarand ji. We have Sarah Gates, Kuldeep Singh Shekhawat, Jitarth Bhardwaj and Dr. Sachin Dahiya on this discussion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. So, see, Australia is a democratic country just like India, and nobody will be able to make any arrest unless there is a legitimate evidence against the person committing a crime. It is the same thing which is applicable to the graffiti and the vilification messages which have been spray painted on the BAPS temple's fence. So the matter is under investigation. All the evidences has been given to the police, and I don't think it is a correct notion to connect these issues with the Quad and the free trade agreement which Australia and India has. There are a lot of things happening in the background within the government areas, within the police, state and federal government, which we don't know, but it is a matter of investigation of the federal government and of course the Victoria Police.
But in this case, Makaranji, why target Hindu temples? And look at the kind of narrative that they are peddling, the kind of posters that are springing up.
See, the referendum is a bit of a joke. If you talk of a referendum which is happening in any sovereign country, a referendum is usually held to make or propose a major constitutional change. And the referendum is a consent taken by the citizens of that country. So who is doing the referendum of which country in which country? I think it's a joke. So I think it's a meaningless exercise. It is a bit of a noise which they are trying to create, whoever that organization is, and just to seek attention. So I don't think it has any importance at all.
But there has to be a limit to where Hindu temples and Hindu establishments will be targeted. There has to be a limit to where India will be vilified and anti-India sloganeering would be done. Why should Australia allow ground for any of these elements?
Exactly. So look, Australia, like any other Western country or a democratic country, has a expression of freedom of speech or whatever, so which they are probably entitled to. But in this case, by vandalizing and putting a graffiti on the fence, they have crossed the line. Whoever has done that, whichever organization, whoever has done that, and they have actually violated a local law, which is in Victoria, which is the Racial and Religious Tolerance Act, which and the death threat which they have in form of graffiti on the fence definitely qualifies for the breach of that act. So I'm pretty sure that the Victoria police will take action in the backdrop of that law because this is where they have crossed the line. Ethnic issue is a different issue. Faith-related issue is a different issue. And in Australia, vilification against any other faith is unacceptable and is punishable by law.
So not just but do we know who these elements are? Have they been identified? That's another question that arises.
Well, but that is not up to you and me to find out. It is the matter of police for investigation, and that is being happening as we speak.
But trying to be, very, very dignified about this entire aspect, to try and take it and say, let the due course of law come out. Let's not give these elements too much of a handle. I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Makran. But Dr. Sachin Dahiya, does this also not embolden these elements? Are they not increasing their presence and footprints in religious institutions like Gurdwaras? Although the Gurdwaras have openly condemned such acts, are they not getting bold enough to try and put these posters on the streets of Melbourne?
Definitely, Anand. I think these kind of things will keep going virtually and physical till the governments take strong actions. And we will not say a large population is supporting this. I will say very few people who are into this vandalism kind of things and against the community right now. We strongly condemn it, and we are as a community, whole Hindu community is hoping the government will take a very strict action. There are some strong positive views have come across. They have, according to the Victorian law, Victorian Religious Act, they have broken the law which fits these kind of acts, and police has done an FIR and they are investigating, and we are hoping this time there will be a very, very strong action against them. Political will also there, but I think we have to see in due course what actions will be taken. We are hoping if we don't stop it now, these attacks are going to increase as the time will go.
No, my simple point is, Makranji, and before I bring in Saraji and also Kuldeep Singh Shekhawat, because Kuldeepji, this reminds us a lot of what's happening in the UK and Leicester, and then there are also voices that these people are getting a direct handle from the UK as to what is happening in Australia. We also have a UK returned who's trying to rabble-rouse back at home in Punjab itself. This Amritpal Singh has become quite a nuisance on ground, the kind of messages they're being spread. But Makranji, the aspect is, if India were to allow secessionist forces against Australia on Indian soil and give them a free run here, will Australia like it? Will there not be a strong narrative against it?
Well, I think that is a matter for the different country to decide about it. But I can tell you that in Australia, especially in Victoria, we have migrants from all faiths, all ethnicities, and we are very, very proud of our multicultural fabric. And anyone who dares from any faith who tries to disturb this fabric and create noise is definitely not acceptable. This is noted very, very strongly within the multicultural community. Everybody is upset. Everybody is complaining. And I'm pretty sure that there will be some action which will be visible. The incidents has happened only like 24 hours ago, 36 hours ago. But I'm pretty sure there will be definitely some action which will be visible in the days to come.
But the Gurudwara, yes, Sachin Dahiya. But the Gurdwaras have condemned this act, haven't they? They have come out in support of the Hindu community. We must say that also.
there are some gurdwaras has come out and other communities have come out, but we want the Indian government to put a pressure on Australian government also to take strong action against these kind of people who are, and they should follow the who is funding these and who is propagating these kind of things in Australia.
I just want to put this out. Gurdwara Shri Guru Nanak Darbar officer has Victoria strongly condemns the graffiti acts at the gates of the BAPS Sri Swaminarayan Mandir in Mill Park, Melbourne, Australia. Our community strongly condemns such cowardly acts aimed at disturbing bonds of love and compassion in our Australian society. Such acts are against all principles of humanism and Sikhism. We request the Victoria Police to investigate this thoroughly, make a statement and take strict action against the offenders. We have this condemnation by this one. I'll request the team to also put it out through the course of this conversation. We extend our love and prayers to BAPS. They do heart-touching work in the community. We are grateful for their contributions to the entire Australian community from the volunteers and community members of the Gurudwara Shri Guru Nanak Darbar officer. So there are other Gurudwaras also who have issued statements of not just support, solidarity, but also condemnation. But Sara Gatesji, is this an increasing trend? Would you like nations to now start stopping these, working together to stop these secessionist forces from operating?
Well, absolutely, because as you know, the Indo-Pacific Partnership is about keeping Australia and the whole Indo-Pacific region safe, and that includes people in our country and in India. This movement, which has been, identified through the graffiti as possibly linked to the hate crime, as you know, is in UK, Canada, US, and Australia and New Zealand. I came to know that the Seek for Justice movement had entered Australia last year, and that story was broken by the Australian Hindu Association. Siddharth has done a lot of research and kept up to date, and so I think Australian Hindus have, been pushing back against this because of the hateful rhetoric that we're seeing, and whether it's in the media, whether it's coming from not-for-profit organisations, which unfortunately are funded by taxpayers, and whether it's coming from social media. There's also a number of very inauthentic accounts which are spreading this rhetoric on social media, thousands, possibly thousands of tweets that have been sent to raise hashtags and so forth that are targeting Australia. So we have seen Australians targeted by Baba Khalsa. We've seen Australians in New Zealand. We saw Harneck Singh attacked. He was almost murdered over this incident, and that's not very far from us. And I do know that one Seek for Justice person, at least one, has come from New Zealand to Australia to bring about this movement. So there is a link there. Now, I'm concerned with community safety. I'm concerned with responsible social media messaging, and I do welcome all of these statements in solidarity with the Hindu community, and I think it does need to come from the Sikh community, because automatically, due to the Khalistani iconography, which is readily identifiable, it's going to raise suspicion between the Hindu and Sikh communities, and people are going to want to know how many of these people who are claiming Sikhi are in fact sponsoring and endorsing Palestine extremism or any one of these prescribed groups in India. And prescribed groups in India that are operating in Australia are still prescribed in India. So it is a problem for us. And they've demonstrated that they can use violence. We've seen copycat hate crimes, in UK, Canada, US, and, targeting Gandhi statues. We've had at least one conviction, I think it was in New York. So I think police can look at that particular conviction and ask more questions, cooperate with America to find out, what is the ideological matrix for this extremism, and how does it relate to, activist movements and the successionism movement. But I do want to tell people in India, and I'm sure they're very concerned because they can see this going on everywhere, Australia doesn't allow for successionism. So we don't have a constitution that actually allows for successionism. If anybody wanted to separate one of our states, they would need to change the constitution. So this referendum is unconstitutional here. if it was to be about Australia, it would be unconstitutional. So it simply doesn't fit with Australian values, and it's certainly not part of our democratic system to be pushing for an ethno-nationalist religious group who partition off a whole chunk, just for the exclusive use of their particular group. That's a very supremacist type of ideology. And these people are prepared to use violence. So I think that, ASIO and the ASP and every state police service needs to be briefed about what's going on, and they need to investigate. So, I'm just concerned about safety and community safety. And, our organisations are responsible for implementing safety into their temples.
Right.
And if they're funded, to provide that security and safety to their members, then they have to, they really have an obligation to ensure that that's put in. And if it means they have to pay for security so that they can catch these and nab these offenders, then it's something they have to do. And I look forward to them doing that and to running security and safety education on what's anti-Hindu hate and what you can do about it, because it does break the law.
Yes,
this
it does. It does. We've just got news coming through from government sources within India. News coming in, top government sources have told CNN News 18 that the government of India has raised strong objection with the local authorities in the wake of these attacks. So these are the objections that have now come forth. The government of India has raised strong objections against this. Also the fact that it's a clear attempt to stir tensions between the authorities and Hindus, to deliberately try and create strife on ground. And local authorities have been asked to probe and arrest the culprits at the earliest. Melbourne authorities must crack down on groups that are spreading hate. So this is what the input coming in from our investigations editor Manoj Gupta. Abhishek Jha is also with us. Abhishek, multiple instances of Pakistani elements misbehaving with Indians or trying to create social strife, and this is twice in a row, 2 days in a row, that in different corners of the world, this entire Khalistan narrative pushed by the Pakistanis has come to the fore, and in very ugly forms.
Of course, yesterday also we discussed how Pakistani diplomats tried to convince one Indian female professor to write articles about pro-Khalistan. And now we are seeing this news coming from Australia, where Khalistan activists, they have planned a referendum towards the end of this month. And to the run-up of that, they have planned multiple events, car rallies and other events also. In fact, 2 days ago also, the assassins of Indira Gandhi, former Prime Minister of India, they were glorified. Their posters were circulated across social media in Australia. Their posters were pasted on gurdwaras. So it is kind of concerning for Indians living in Australia and the government in India also, if these activists are getting emboldened in the name of freedom of expression that many of Australian lawmakers have supported, that they have said that no matter what, they will allow and they will protect everyone's right to express themselves, and that also includes Sikh referendum or Sikh protest. So in that context, it becomes really very critical that something that Indian government has always called a secessionist force, a terrorist front, is being allowed in the name of freedom of expression by Australian lawmakers or Australian governments to go, scot-free and create ruckus all around Australia. And Indian government has lodged a very strong protest with Australian authorities in that context.
True, and there is also condemnation that has come from the local gurdwaras there. So that very clearly says that the overall community does not even back this one bit. And these people don't have traction, as Jitarth Bhardwaj was telling us, that there is a desperation and that's why these acts have happened. But Kuldeep Singh Shekhawat, in London, in UK, and it's manifest in Canada, it's now rearing its ugly head in Australia. They seem to be getting emboldened. They seem to not stop. So then shouldn't the diplomatic option be exercised that secessionist voices should not be given ground? Even if they are getting no traction, they should not be allowed to put hoardings. That shows that India should be broken up and Sikhs are the one who deserve a separate place, etc. This Khalistani-Pakistani narrative.
Well, I'll come to the core issue, that is Khalistan. And there are three reasons of what has happened and why it has happened. The first reason is Pannu himself is in Australia. Why? because he wants a referendum done there. Thirdly, why this desecration of BAPS Swaminarayan temple? If you look at the writing, it says Modi Hitler. What does that mean? That means they want to do something against Modi. They wanted to show that Modi is a Hitler. The issue is not vandalism of a temple. The issue is recently Prime Minister Modi has done Bal Divas, which has really shaken them. Entire Sikh community praised Prime Minister Modi that, yeah, he has done something for the Sikh community which no other Indian Prime Minister never did. And it was a great move and it was a great celebration that happened in India. Just to take away the attention from that and that feeling of comfort for the Sikh community, this guy travels to Australia and then with the help of ISI, that's normal actually. I think we shouldn't even discuss this. ISI involvement is just like a normal one guy talking to the other guy and discussing the Khalistani narrative. So when it goes to Australia, says we have to do a referendum to seek attention, this was done. This has no other motivation. They did similar thing in Canada also before the referendum. When referendum was done in Canada, they did the similar kind of incidents in Canada itself. So these people are attention seekers. I think we should let them die down. They will die down. Nothing great will come out of it. But yeah, if you ask me a solution, Australian government is not going to let it go just like that. I'll be honest with you. It is not the British government which is very polite. It is not the American government who talks about freedom. Australian government will react and react very sharply. Just wait and watch what happens.
No, but it's not about just treating them as miscreants. It's about using religion to push a particular political agenda that attacks the very sovereignty of Bharat. Now, if these are nations who want to engage with Bharat, then they need to respect Bharat's sovereignty. Just as they would expect Bharat to respect Australia's sovereignty, UK's sovereignty and America's sovereignty. Jitarth Bhardwaj, is that not a valid point? And I'll bring in Sarah Gates on that. Yes, Jitarth Bhardwaj. You're on mute again, Jitarth.
See, Anand, this is the bottom line, at least for democratic countries who are members of Quad, who call themselves partners in security and business. That should be the bottom line. But I must tell you what these Khalistani people are doing right now, and it's very alarming. The 18th January press conference and the seminar which they have proposed right now, which I can tell you, is in coordination and in collaboration with Australian Aboriginal Referendum Council. So they are trying to find out allies. They have brought one professor from Institute of Referendum and Initiatives from University of Southern California into Australia to make Australian authorities why this Sikh referendum is something different than secessionist movement which India is telling. So now they are not some goons or some random people who are just...
they are trying to legitimize themselves using academia and also local ethnic groupings and trying to do... That's quite devious, Sarah Gates. I'm sure the polity and the authorities can see through that.
They can try to do Tugde gang in Australia that way.
Yes, Sarahji. And
I think there needs to be more funding by the Australian Research Council for scholars into these types of diaspora intersectarian issues, because there is no research available, especially not on anti-Hindu hatred. And we have a long history of anti-Hindu laws, anti-Hindu movements, anti-Asiatic leagues that have specifically targeted Indians and Hindus, and at that time they'd also targeted Sikhs. But let me just make one point here, and I think this is to help the authorities. The graffiti said Hindustan Murdabad. Now what does that mean? It means the person who made the graffiti does not identify as Indian, because Hindustan is India, right? They do not identify as being of that ethnicity. And so they have resentment, some type of historic grievance with that particular ethnicity, and they identify otherwise. Otherwise, why would they be writing offensive graffiti about India if they felt any sympathy, or if they identified with India? I don't think they do, and this is a clue to who the offenders are, that they don't identify as Indian. I'd be very, very surprised if this was just a type of, a distraction, like a decoy set up. I think this is legitimate, and it runs on the back of, well, actually 6 years I've heard today. I do take complaints with my Hindu human rights from Hindus, and they do tell me their experience in diaspora and this intersectarian hatred.
Right.
And for 6 years, there have been Hindus who have not gone to certain gurudwaras because of anti-Hindu speeches. So this is a type of rhetoric that is simply not part of our multicultural fabric and values. And it really needs, we need to have professionals who understand the language and the culture. And if we don't fund researchers, they can't inform security, they can't inform intelligence, and there's just simply not enough research there looking at the anti-Hindu elements of this, and the historic grievance elements, and the preparedness to use violence elements. These are all familiar with extremist movement. Why hasn't it been done?
Well, it should be done. You make a very valid and solid point. I thank all our panelists for joining us. It's late hours in Australia, but you've stayed awake to be able to contribute to this conversation, which is an important one that we had to have, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a very, very short break. Stay with us. Levels, what kind of elections will they happen simultaneously over a period of say about 60 to 90 days? Will it all culminate? Now, those are modalities which have to be seen. But yes, Jammu and Kashmir, the Union Territory, will see elections very, very soon, and perhaps elections to the Assembly. Now, there are arguments and counter-arguments to this. Many believe that they are ready. The people of Jammu and Kashmir are ready. Voices within the government also believe that it is high time this is done, because it's more than nearing about 4 years since the abrogation of Article 370. So before the 5th of August 2023, they want the election process done, because they also want to show to the world, and of course a global narrative that's being trying to pitch, that democracy has been jailed. All of that will now be junked. And of course, it's by default when the elections happen at the panchayat level and also the assembly elections, it's the people of Jammu and Kashmir who are casting their vote. And if they come out in huge numbers and vote and cast a ballot and elect a government of their choice across Jammu and Kashmir, across the various districts, the 20-odd districts between Jammu and Kashmir, then it is also telling the international narrative that this whole game or call for a plebiscite, UN resolution and all of that, this entire bogey of Pakistan totally fails. And there is also a strong message that goes to Pak-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, saying the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, that which is integrally a part of India, look what is happening here, how people are flourishing, how this place is flourishing, and see what Pakistan has done to you after being occupiers.
But Anand, you can't really ignore that Pakistan, loses no attempt to push in terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir. Targeted killings were so far going on in the valley. Now that modus operandi being used in Jammu as well, will that be a factor? Will that be a concern whenever the dates are decided?
Security is always a concern, but one has to understand that barring this Pak-sponsored terror which happens in Jammu and Kashmir, the crime rate in Jammu and Kashmir is the lowest across the country. So, one or two terror acts should not deter the entire population and allow the electoral process to be derailed. I think the people on ground very clearly know who intends to do what. And they have seen the benefits of working in peace. They have seen the benefits of having 280 days of no hartals, no bunds, all schools open. Yes, there are incidences which happen which create a little bit of a flutter and worry, but largely people understand that this is an act of desperation. The number of attacks have come down. The total number of commanders that have been neutralized, 53 or 57 out of the 186 were all commanders of various tanzeems. So these tanzeems are also now headless, and more people people are realizing that the more there is work, flourishing and opportunity to earn, opportunity to get a life of respect and sensibility, people will opt for that. And that's something which the government believes the people of Jammu and Kashmir now have to choose. See, the moment you give the power to the people and say that, listen, we want the elections to be conducted for you, you have to decide whether you want it or not, you would see the support for these elements also coming down, the humant going up, and of course the neutralization of such terrorist elements being sent across from Pakistan also going down. And then of course, if there is an escalation that happens of infiltration and terror acts, it again highlights the fact that Pakistan is the epicenter of terror and Pakistan is the one at fault, not India.
Right. Anand Narasimhan and Manoj Gupta, they're getting us details about that political movement that is happening in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And that is the message with which Union Home Minister Amit Shah is scheduled to land in Jammu in a short while from now. Union Home Minister Amit Shah will be heading to Jammu and Kashmir's Rajouri district in the wake of the twin attacks that happened in Rajouri in January. This was on the first 2 days of the new year. He will be taking stock of the security situation. Is also likely to meet the family members of the victims of the Rajouri terror attack. After meeting them, the Home Minister will also chair a high-level security review meeting with officials. If you recall, 4 people were gunned down in the evening of 1st of January and 2 children were subsequently killed when an IED went off. And since then, there has been a lot of anger in that area as to how these terrorists have not been brought to justice. Home Minister's visit to Rajouri is meant to assure the people in the region that the security grid is going all out to bring them justice and the political establishment of the country is standing firmly with them.
अमित शाह जो है जम्मू एक रोजा दौरे पे आ रहे हैं। डांगरी में वो फैमिली से मिलेंगे जो राजौरी किलिंग्स में जिनकी फैमिली चली गई उनसे मिलेंगे। वो उसके साथ साथ वो सिक्योरिटी रिव्यू करेंगे, सिक्योरिटी सिचुएशंस को रिव्यू करेंगे। मीटिंग होने वाली है उनकी। क्या लगता है आपको इस दौरे से?
देखिए, हिंदुस्तान के होम मिनिस्टर हैं, मुझे खुशी है कि उनका फर्ज है आए, इन लोगों को देखें, इन पे जो कयामत गुजरी है, क्योंकि बहुत गरीब हैं वो जो राजौरी के लोग हैं, बहुत गरीब हैं। उनके सिर्फ दिलजोई के लिए ना आए, उनको फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस भी दें कि उसको गरीबी से निकाल सकें और सिक्योरिटी को और भी मुनज़्ज़म करें जिससे कि ऐसे वाक़ात ना हो।
Coming in from the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, this is a mega CNN News 18 exclusive. Top government sources are claiming that the Union government is all set as far as conducting elections to Jammu and Kashmir are concerned. The announcement, as per government officials, could be soon. The Union government wants the democratic process to take shape and is satisfied with the progress in the state post Article 370 abrogation. Government feels locals are ready to participate in the election process. So this news is coming on the eve of Home Minister Amit Shah's visit to Jammu and Kashmir. He's slated to be in Jammu later in the day. He's also met the core group of the Bharatiya Janata Party leaders as far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. He had that meeting and subsequently BL Santosh, senior leader of the party, also held a meeting on ground there in Jammu and Kashmir. So looks like as far as electoral preparations are concerned, at least BJP is off the block and the central government officials are now telling CNN News 18, this is the information that our colleague Manoj Gupta has, that Jammu and Kashmir could see elections very soon. My colleague Anand Narasimhan is with me for more on this. Anand, any further details as to when the elections, what is the window that we are possibly looking at?
Well, back on, and even as Governor R.N. Ravi is in the national capital, Tamil Nadu governor and also the Tamil DMK delegation trying to make representations to the president and also to the prime minister, it's just down to abuse. First the insult and now brazen abuse. DMK leader has been caught on video continuing to not just target Governor R.N. Ravi but openly abusing him. DMK spokesperson and leader Shivaji Krishnamurthy said, and I quote, "If the governor refuses to utter the name of Ambedkar in his legislative speech, don't I have the right to assault him, abuse him?" He also says, if the governor doesn't read out the speeches given by the government, go to Kashmir, we will send terrorists and they will gun you down. He's also used choicest expletives against the governor, which we cannot play on national television, ladies and gentlemen.
எங்க முப்பாட்ட டாக்டர் அம்பேத்கர் பேரை சொல்ல மாட்டேன்னு சொன்னான்னா அவனை செருப்பால் அடிப்பேன்னு சொல்ற உரிமை எனக்கு இருக்கா இல்லையா? அவர் பேரை சொல்ல மாட்டேன்னா நீ போடா காஷ்மீருக்கு, நாங்களே தீவிரவாதி அனுப்புறோம், அவன் உன்னை சுட்டு கொல்லட்டும்.
Purnima now joins us live. This kind of language, does the DMK, will it endorse? Playing holier than thou and trying to ask for action against Governor R.N. Ravi. First, the governor's position, constitutional position, insulted inside the assembly, and now DMK spokespersons increasingly getting emboldened because of the tacit support. And look at the language that Shivaji has used. He's gone far beyond this. He said he wants to pick up the slipper and beat the governor, and says, I will send terrorists to Kashmir to gun him down.
Absolutely. Derogatory statements and filth statements rather coming in from a DMK functionary. The event happened on the 12th of January at Virugambakam in Chennai. Interestingly, Anand, in the beginning of the video, he says that Chief Minister Stalin wants us to not talk ill about the governor. However, and then he goes on to use words that cannot be said on national media, because it's really derogatory and it's a filth language that she's used, expletives that she's used. Therefore, right now, Chief Minister had advised DMK MLAs to not do anything against the governor, saying that no one should go for debate or say anything against the governor, which is why you see the rise of the DMK, despite stern warning from the DMK top leadership to all the MLAs. Such statements, the DMK off the record says that they do not endorse such statements, but whether action will be taken against this DMK functionary, or will they stay silent and distance themselves from the comments made, that remains to be seen.
No, but if the DMK does not condone such statements, they should take action. They need to also practice what they preach. If they want action against the governor for not doing what he's supposed to do, or in some way not towing the government's line, or somewhere not passing laws and not allowing the government to function, and for his conduct per se, then what does the DMK have to talk about? Narayanan Tirupati with us. Mr. Narayanan Tirupati, there are other portions of this speech which are not even worthy to put on air. Is this the language that behoves of a DMK spokesperson, and also for a constitutional position of a governor?
See, there is a proverb in our Tamil, Anand. They say that Talaivan evadiyo thondanum avadi. How the leader is, that the cadre will follow them. The DMK is known for these filthy languages right from 1957. So we need to understand this. You cannot expect more than this. But there is a law in this country. There is some kind of dharma in this country. This filthy fellow, this bloody rascal, he has spoken so filthy about our governor. See, the thing is that it has happened in the DMK's public. And he has said that he will send the terrorists to kill Mr. R.N. Ravi in Kashmir. And we, as you rightly said, we can't even hear all those things.
No, but we also don't need to use the kind of... the action has to be taken by the party. No matter what we think about some people who use such language, it does not behove of anybody to use any kind of language.
Anand,
even the adjectives that you have used currently, sir, as Vice President of Tamil Nadu BJP, does it behove you of using Anand, that kind of language?
What to do, Anand? My blood is boiling. The way he has used, the way he has abused our governor. See, you leave alone our governor. No one can talk like that in a public meeting. How can he do that? And he's an offender. Regularly he talks like that. All these filthy things. And even in fact, I have given a complaint against him in the police station, and no action so far in the last 2 months. And the DMK, if DMK is not removing from the party or arresting him, it means that this speech is definitely official,
Now we'd
language
see if
of
the
PM.
DMK has a response on this, and do they actually condone this kind of language being used against anybody? And to appointing such leaders as spokespersons, does that actually behove of a party which has got an overwhelming mandate and is in the ruling disposition or in the chief government's chair in Tamil Nadu? Thank you, Mr. Narayanan Tirupati. We're going to take a short break. Stay with us.
देवी और सज्जनों, माननीय केंद्रीय सड़क परिवहन और राजमार्ग मंत्री नितिन गडकरी जी ने देश के कोने कोने को हाईवेज के साथ जोड़ दिया। हमारा ये अनुरोध है और एक निमंत्रण भी कि आप भी 14 जनवरी को हमारे साथ जुड़ें सड़क सुरक्षा अभियान में, क्योंकि उसमें होंगी रोड सेफ्टी की बहुत सारी आवश्यक बातें। क्यों नितिन जी, मैं सही कह रहा हूँ कि नहीं?
बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं, क्योंकि जान है तो जहान है।
सड़क सुरक्षा अभियान, परवाह करेंगे, सुरक्षित रहेंगे। January 14th, 10 a.m. onwards.
Be in Jammu later in the day. He's also met the core group of the Bharatiya Janata Party leaders as far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. He had that meeting, and subsequently BL Santosh, senior leader of the party, also held a meeting on ground there in Jammu and Kashmir. So looks like as far as electoral preparations are concerned, at least BJP is off the block, and the central government officials are now telling CNN News 18, this is the information that our colleague Manoj Gupta has, that Jammu and Kashmir could see elections very soon. My colleague Anand Narsimhan is with me for more on this. Anand, any further details as to when the elections, what is the window that we are possibly looking at?
Well, the talk is very, very hot about spring, because the delimitation exercise will be is already on its way and it's almost completed. And there are also panchayat elections which need to be conducted. So there are at multiple levels. What kind of elections will they happen simultaneously over a period of say about 60 to 90 days? Will it all culminate? Now, those are modalities which have to be seen. But yes, Jammu and Kashmir, the Union Territory, will see elections very, very soon, and perhaps elections to the Assembly. There are arguments and counter-arguments to this. Many believe that they are ready. The people of Jammu and Kashmir are ready. Voices within the government also believe that it is high time this is done, because it's more than nearing about 4 years since the abrogation of Article 370. So before the 5th of August 2023, they want the election process done, because they also want to show to the world, and of course a global narrative that's being trying to pitch, that democracy has been jailed. All of that will now be junked. And of course, it's by default when the elections happen at the panchayat level and also the assembly elections, it's the people of Jammu and Kashmir who are casting their vote. And if they come out in huge numbers and vote and cast a ballot and elect a government of their choice across Jammu and Kashmir, across the various districts, the 20-odd districts between Jammu and Kashmir, then it is also telling the international narrative that this whole game or call for a plebiscite, UN resolution and all of that, this entire bogey of Pakistan totally fails.
Right.
And there is also a strong message that goes to Pak-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, saying the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, that which is integrally a part of India, look what is happening here, how people are flourishing, how this place is flourishing, and see what Pakistan has done to you after being occupiers.
But Anand, you can't really ignore that Pakistan, loses no attempt to push in terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir. Targeted killings were so far going on in the valley. Now that modus operandi being used in Jammu as well, will that be a factor? Will that be a concern whenever the dates are decided?
Security is always a concern, but one has to understand that barring this Pak-sponsored terror which happens in Jammu and Kashmir, the crime rate in Jammu and Kashmir is the lowest across the country. So, one or two terror acts should not deter the entire population and allow the electoral process to be derailed. I think the people on ground very clearly know who intends to do what. And they have seen the benefits of working in peace. They have seen the benefits of having 280 days of no hartals, no bunds, all schools open. Yes, there are incidences which happen which create a little bit of a flutter and worry, but largely people understand that this is an act of desperation. The number of attacks have come down. The total number of commanders that have been neutralized, 53 or 57 out of the 186 were all commanders of various tanzeems. So these tanzeems are also now headless, and more people people are realizing that the more there is work, flourishing and opportunity to earn, opportunity to get a life of respect and sensibility, people will opt for that. And that's something which the government believes the people of Jammu and Kashmir now have to choose. See, the moment you give the power to the people and say that, listen, we want the elections to be conducted for you, you have to decide whether you want it or not, you would see the support for these elements also coming down, the humant going up, and of course the neutralization of such terrorist elements being sent across from Pakistan also going down. And then of course, if there is an escalation that happens of infiltration and terror acts, it again highlights the fact that Pakistan is the epicenter of terror and Pakistan is the one at fault, not India.
Right. Anand Narasimhan and Manoj Gupta, they're getting us details about that political movement that is happening in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And that is the message with which Union Home Minister Amit Shah is scheduled to land in Jammu in a short while from now. Union Home Minister Amit Shah will be heading to Jammu and Kashmir's Rajouri district in the wake of the twin attacks that happened in Rajouri in January. This was on the first 2 days of the new year. He will be taking stock of the security situation. Is also likely to meet the family members of the victims of the Rajouri terror attack. After meeting them, the Home Minister will also chair a high-level security review meeting with officials. If you recall, 4 people were gunned down in the evening of 1st of January and 2 children were subsequently killed when an IED went off. And since then, there has been a lot of anger in that area as to how these terrorists have not been brought to justice. Home Minister's visit to Rajouri is meant to assure the people in the region that the security grid is going all out to bring them justice and the political establishment of the country is standing firmly with them.
अमित शाह जो है जम्मू एक रोजा दौरे पे आ रहे हैं। डांगरी में वो फैमिली से मिलेंगे जो राजौरी किलिंग्स में जिनकी फैमिली चली गई, उनसे मिलेंगे। वो उसके साथ साथ वो सिक्योरिटी रिव्यू करेंगे, सिक्योरिटी सिचुएशंस को रिव्यू करेंगे। मीटिंग होने वाली है उनकी। क्या लगता है आपको इस दौरे से?
देखिए, हिंदुस्तान के होम मिनिस्टर हैं और मुझे खुशी है कि उनका फर्ज है आए, इन लोगों को देखें, इन पे जो कयामत गुजरी है, क्योंकि बहुत गरीब हैं वो जो राजौरी के लोग हैं, बहुत गरीब हैं। उनके सिर्फ दिलजोई के लिए ना आए, उनको फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस भी दें कि उसको गरीबी से निकाल सकें और सिक्योरिटी को और भी मुनज़्ज़म करें जिससे कि ऐसे वाक़ात ना हो।
Coming in from the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, this is a mega CNN News 18 exclusive. Top government sources are claiming that the Union government is all set as far as conducting elections to Jammu and Kashmir are concerned. The announcement, as per government officials, could be soon. The Union government wants the democratic process to take shape and is satisfied with the progress in the state post Article 370 abrogation. Government feels locals are ready to participate in the election process. So this news is coming on the eve of Home Minister Amit Shah's visit to Jammu and Kashmir. He's slated to be in Jammu later in the day. He's also met the core group of the Bharatiya Janata Party leaders as far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. He had that meeting and subsequently BL Santosh, senior leader of the party, also held a meeting on ground there in Jammu and Kashmir. So looks like as far as electoral preparations are concerned, at least BJP is off the block and the central government officials are now telling CNN News 18, this is the information that our colleague Manoj Gupta has, that Jammu and Kashmir could see elections very soon.
Back on with the news that days after news that the Ram Mandir and its construction was under the radar of terror tanzeems operating out of Pakistani soil, the Ram Mandir Trust threw open the doors or the entire 71-acre parisar for the media to have a look. It was a half day in white and the construction is in full swing. Nearly 50% of the main area of the Sanctum Sanctorum and that first ground floor, the construction work has been completed and the indications are that any time between the 21st of December and the 14th of January, the Pran Pratishtha will be done and the temple doors will be thrown open. Pranshu Mishra was on ground. Have a look at this report.
Today's day is more about pictures, and I'll directly show you the pictures. Now, this is for the first time that we have got access here on the first floor. Last time in August when we reported, we were showing you from the ground there, which is in fact, one story below us. We were talking to the project engineer while we were having the survey of this entire area around the temple complex. Now we are on the first floor, and right in front of me, where you see that flag is fluttering, this Bhagwa tricolor is fluttering. It was Yogi Adityanath who has done the first puja of the first Shila that was laid for the Garbhagriha, and this is the entire complex. We are already seeing how this structure is coming up. The floor I am walking is the solid granite, compressed granite, and below me is around 50 meters and bedrock solid foundation, which is sane of any sort of use of iron or steel. Therefore, we can say that in form of the underground construction, the construction below the earth, it is a solid slab of compressed concrete which has been created, and on it this structure is starting. Now, these are the pillars, the carved pillars which we have been talking about. This is the red stone which has come in from Bharatpur in Rajasthan. Beautiful carvings are already being done here, and this is the construction work that has started. Hundreds of such columns would be here, which would be supporting stories of this temple structure and also the sanctum sanctorium. Now, talking to Mr. Jagdish and others, see, it is a huge project being constructed on around 2.2 acres of land, but this is the core area, and here the maximum 65% of construction work is over. So Mr. Amit Shah, the Union Home Minister, when on 5th he said that by the end of this year this place will be open. It is absolutely clear. The planning is that next year on Makar Sankranti, that is 15th January 2024, when the pious days of the Shubh Tithi start in the Hindu calendar, this temple should be, inaugurated formally. The construction work on one hand and the larger messaging on the other hand. We all know, as a journalist, as informed citizens, we clearly do understand that this Ram temple would be a big electoral issue ahead of 2024 general election. And already BJP is not shy of claiming and acknowledging that fact, that it is their efforts which have ensured the way for the grand Ram temple.
Well, from one temple town to another, where ISRO has released satellite images of Joshimath, which shows that the land subsidence that occurred over the last year. Joshimath sank 5.4 centimeters in 12 days between December 2022 and Jan 2023, while it sank 9 centimeters in 7 months between April 2022 and November 2022. According to Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami, 99 families have been shifted from Joshimath. So far, the assessment for rehabilitation is underway. Let's try and understand what has happened. This is not just a recent phenomenon. It's been happening for over a year now, ladies and gentlemen. And this is it could be multiple factors. It could be the elements at work, the landslides, the flash floods that have happened because of inclemental weather, and also because of the fast-paced development work that is happening, along with the strength of the basic construction which has happened all across Joshimath town. Now, the subsidence, ISRO says, the proof is that there is an 8.9 centimeter subsidence between April and November 2022. Also, in 12 days, 5.4 centimeter subsidence, that's between December 27th and Jan 8th, 2023. So December 27, 2022 and Jan 8, 2023. 243 days of subsidence near Joshimath Auli Road, a height of 2,180 meters. This entire subsidence zone is prominent, and in fact there are also prominent landmarks right at the heart of Joshimath town. There is the army helipad, there is the Narsingh Mandir which is there, and Joshimath itself is very, very important strategically because the last inhabited village, Mana, is just about 35-40 kilometers away. This is the last point towards Badrinath and Kedarnath. So important location, Joshimath, but this subsidence has been happening for nearly a year. This is what ISRO satellite imagery shows. That's all we've got time for. Winding up this edition of The Nation at 5 on that note, Viewpoint with Saka.
After his Tamilakam remark, you called him an agent of the BJP and the RSS. You said he should go and do what he is doing from the BJP headquarters. You say everything you want to say, yet you want to act like you are not being abrasive.
RSS Hindutva narrative, out to get Muslims. Mohan Bhagwat saying there is nothing for anybody to fear in Hindustan. But Hindustan must remain Hindustan. Don't change the DNA of Bharat.
Somebody needs to be held to account for this. The MRCL MD comes out and puts out a statement saying it's a technical fault. But are you